You are listening to Mindset and Metabolism Mastery, episode 21. When you understand the different goals and priorities of your brain and how they are constantly battling for who is in the driver's seat, you can start to harness the power of your brain to move you towards your goals with much more ease. Let's dive in. Welcome to Mindset and Metabolism Mastery, a show for women who are tired of feeling hopeless, defeated, and frustrated with their bodies and want to have more energy to show up every day as the best version of themselves. I'm holistic nutrition consultant Shannon Hagel, and I can help you reprogram your brain to create bulletproof consistency with ease and address your personal hormonal imbalances that are leading to weight gain. Life can feel a whole lot better with a body you love, delicious food, and a little wine. And I'm here to help you get there. Ready to lose weight and feel amazing in your body? Let's dive in. Welcome, friends. Now, by far, the most listened to podcasts, my most attended workshops and webinars, and the questions I get asked most about are usually about the physical. Women want to know what to eat, what workouts to do, how to balance this hormone or that hormone in order to get the results that they're seeking. And all of those things are important. They are, but they are the easiest part. Figuring out what your body needs to be in balance, to have a healthy metabolism that allows you to burn fat and pump out that all-day superhuman energy is very, very overwhelming for people because there's so much information and misinformation out there. But once you do understand the physical piece, you're good. Once you know what to do, what is no longer a problem anymore? What is a much, much, much bigger obstacle to you getting into a body that you feel really freaking good in? Not just for the summer or for a few weeks while you're able to kind of bubble wrap yourself from all of the temptation and be perfect. No, the biggest obstacle we face to finally end this battle with your body and with food and actually embody these changes that are going to allow you to feel like your best possible self is you. It's your brain. So over the next couple of weeks, I want to dive deeper into the neurobehavioral aspects that really drive your results. Because if you can master this piece, you become the person who is able to show up for your body the way it needs you to, without falling off the wagon or white knuckling it through cravings or constantly living in this cycle of restriction, followed by an all-out blowout. If you can master your own brain, you will create any result that you want. We are often limited by our own experiences. So while you might know how you want your body to look or feel, right? Maybe you want your tummy to not hang over your waistband anymore. Or you want to not have to feel like you're the Walking Dead at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Or you want to feel good enough in your skin that you can be more present with your kids and your friends rather than constantly spinning out about how tight your sweater feels. Or what people will think of you if you order a burger instead of a salad. Or how you're going to get out of that beach day because there's no way you're going to get into a freaking bathing suit. While we often know how we want our results to look, we often cannot conceptualize being able to get there and then stay there with ease. We take our current struggles with us in our minds as though those obstacles are going to continue to have all of this power over us. And our only hope to overcoming them is being really determined and really, really good and really strong every day of our lives. And so what happens is people start to address the physical changes that need to happen in order to see the scale drop and to reduce the bloat and to get better sleeps. But they continue to ignore and not address the real issue that makes it so hard to maintain these healthy habits. So let's talk about the design of your brain and how your brain's goals are not always in alignment with yours and how this is actually preventing you from integrating these healthy habits in a way where they become an extension of you, where they become really easy. You don't even have to think about them anymore. You need to understand that you have different parts of your brain that function in different ways, and they have very, very different priorities. First, there is the caveman you, the lizard part of your brain. This is the oldest part of your brain. Now, this is also a really important part of your brain. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for your survival. It prioritizes your survival over everything else. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for the functions that you don't think about, right? Like keeping your heart beating in your lungs, breathing, your fight or flight response to save you from a dangerous situation. So it has some pretty important functions if you like being alive. It's also a total diva. because this part of your brain evolved in those caveman days when there was a lot of risk to your survival. It believes that the best way to keep you alive is to keep you safe. That is its whole job. Its whole world is running towards pleasure and away from pain. And now pain can be anything that threatens your survival. It's really anything that could cause some sort of physical or emotional discomfort. And pleasure is anything that promotes your survival, safety, or your physical and emotional comfort. This part of your brain is giving total toddler vibes. It's like the 2-year-old version of you making all the decisions. I want what I want when I want it, which is now. Now, this may have worked out great thousands of years ago when food was scarce and our survival as a species really depended on 2 things, eating and procreation. Even 70 years ago, the amount of effort that had to go into preparing and sourcing food was completely different than it is today. There was nothing packaged or enhanced or flavor infused. There wasn't a Starbucks on every frickin' block or packaged protein bars with as much sugar in them as a candy bar. This part of our brain is driven to seek out pleasure. It is designed to take pleasure in foods that will allow us to up our fat storage. Because the more fat stores we had in the past, the more we were protected against the inevitable famine that never really comes anymore. So this ancient part of our brain, although still very important, it hasn't evolved in our world where we drive everywhere, where we never leave our houses, where we watch TV for entertainment, where we turn up the thermostat to heat our houses, where we use our brains instead of our bodies for work. So this lizard part of your brain is constantly battling the other part of your brain, the higher thinking part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. They're in a constant battle for who gets to call the shots. Now, your prefrontal cortex is the newer part of your brain. It has been upgraded. This part of your brain can rationalize. It can forward think. It can goal set. It can think about your long-term goals, not always just immediate gratification. This is the part of your brain that has deeper, more fulfilling desires. It desires to excel in your career or to be the parent that says hell yes to playing soccer when your kid asks. It's the part of your brain that desires intimacy with your partner, not just sex. It desires to have an organized house and a strong body from regular fitness routines. It desires to feel confident in your skin, to show up as the best version of yourself, and to prioritize your mental and physical health. Its desires are usually more about the long-term payoff. The results are not immediate. Now, you can probably see that these 2 parts of your brain often do not agree in the moment. When faced with a decision where you have to choose between immediate gratification and a payoff down the road, which part of your brain do you think usually wins out? Most often, it is that lizard brain, that caveman brain. It's older, it's more established, it's more deeply entrenched. It gets the payoff now rather than later. And in the grand scheme of things, it is the part of your brain that is more important because it allows you to be alive. But because we don't live in a world where our survival is constantly being threatened anymore, the habit of snacking at 8 p.m. at night is not very useful, especially if you have a goal of losing weight, of having a more restful sleep, or of reducing your body's insulin resistance. We end up in a situation where our caveman brain and our prefrontal cortex have to battle it out night after night as we try and break this deeply entrenched habit. No matter how much you want to reach a bigger goal that your higher brain has planned for and deeply desires, that lizard brain will always flare up if working towards that goal causes any sort of emotional or physical discomfort. Getting out of your comfort zone, away from what your brain is already familiar with or used to, is like the bat signal to that lizard brain. It is a warning. This is not good. We need to shut this shit down. Pain that activates this caveman, this lizard part of your brain, usually isn't the things that used to activate it, like starvation or being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or freezing temperatures. Our pain is a little more cush these days than that. Our brain nowadays is more activated by stress and overwhelm and fatigue and deprivation and restriction and frustration and the unfamiliar and uncertainty and anger and sadness and loneliness. Our emotional pain. And since our lizard brain cannot tell the difference between mental emotional pain or a perceived threat and actual physical pain or a physical threat, it will still decide that this is a risk to our survival, and it will seek to move out of pain and into safety and comfort and pleasure, which in our world usually looks like chips, chocolate, lattes, wine, shopping, sex, Insta-doom scrolling, and Netflix marathons. This part of our brain is a thirsty bitch. It wants the fastest and most efficient way of moving out of discomfort. So often I hear women say, if I just had more self-control, I can't stay motivated. If I were more dedicated, I need to be more consistent. I just have weak willpower. I can't seem to stay on track. Anytime I hear these things, it just absolutely breaks my heart, because when you make these struggles mean something about you, about your character, it just causes more pain. We feel like shit about ourselves. And what does our lizard brain want to do when it feels that emotional discomfort? It wants to move towards pleasure. So we end up in this cycle of failure, discomfort, immediate gratification, failure, over and over and over again. If you want a hope in hell of changing this pattern, you need to realize that these habits and patterns are not about you. They're simply about the programming of your caveman brain. When we understand this, we can start to use that programming for us instead of against us and move you towards your goals with much more ease. If we know that emotional discomfort and pain drive our caveman brain to seek more immediate gratification forms of pleasure, then one very simple but very impactful change is to stop the spiral. When you find yourself in these moments where your caveman brain has run the show, instead of jumping into judging yourself about it, which then causes more pain and therefore more desire to seek pleasure, instead I want you to approach it with curiosity. Maybe you've had a crazy, busy, full day. You've been stressed out to the max. You've been running on coffee and quick little snacks to just make it through. You haven't even had a chance to sit down and take a breath. And so by the time 8 p.m. rolls around, you're done. You're cooked. You just want to zone out, right? Your brain wants to seek that immediate gratification and get out of this anxious, stressed out state that it's been running on all day long. And so the fastest and easiest way to do that is snacks, is Netflix. It's a combination of both probably. And so this nighttime snacking is one of those self-sabotaging patterns that I see so often because it is so entrenched. But then what happens after the nighttime snacking is even more detrimental, because we have that initial pattern of the nighttime snacking, but then we have what happens afterwards, the spiral. The judgment, the shame, the frustration with ourselves that we didn't stick to our higher level goals, our higher desires, and do what we know will get us towards the goal of losing weight or feeling better in our bodies. But when we go into that judgment of why can't I just keep my shit together? What is wrong with me? There you go. I did it again. We create more discomfort in our bodies, more of that emotional pain. And then what follows is usually screw it. Right? Or I'll start again tomorrow or even Monday. And we just continue to relive this pattern over and over of engaging in immediate gratification, then creating more pain around that choice, which then creates more desire for that immediate gratification. So we can actually disrupt this spiral by, instead of going into judgment, replacing it with curiosity. So the snacking happened. You had that same stressful day and you had the same action of sitting in front of the TV and snacking at 8 p.m. Instead of going into the judgment around it, which then continues the snacking and self-sabotaging patterns, instead being the detective, seeking to understand, having compassion for why your brain would want to protect you from that pain in the first place, rather than making it a character flaw within yourself. Another way to harness the programming of your brain is that if we know that your brain wants to seek comfort and safety and pleasure, start to think about how you can actually make your healthy habits that would move you towards your goal more pleasurable. So often we think those changes need to be hard. They need to be a struggle. And we actually create that result just by believing that. Some examples that you might make these healthy habits more pleasurable is finding healthy meals that aren't bland, that you actually enjoy, that you might even love, that you look forward to. So you can add these healthy recipes to your weekly go-tos. I know a lot of women really struggle with even cooking healthy meals because it feels like a hard, miserable chore. So thinking how you can make the act of creating those healthy meals and cooking at home more appealing for yourself is going to create less resistance to actually doing it. So I say this to my clients all the time. I don't love cooking. I'm a nutritionist who does not enjoy the act of cooking in and of itself. But I have made it a goal to make the act of cooking healthy meals as pleasurable as possible for myself. So I romance the crap out of myself when I'm making dinner. That is the time to send the kids to the screen, to send them to their devices so that they can zone out and leave me in peace. I love to put on music that I love that is calming for my soul. I like to make an elixir or a herbal tea that really calms me and drink it out of my favorite mug. I like to dim the lights and light candles. Like I romance the crap out of it. So it feels more like a moment of reprieve, of relaxation for me than an overwhelming chore that needs to get done. I see this with exercise as well with people. So many people are so concerned by exercising the right way. What is the exercise that I need to be doing to get to my goals? As though it can only look a certain way. Like we need to maximize our pain in movement, in exercise, in order for it to have any sort of payoff. Instead of just moving your body the way you enjoy moving your body. If you enjoy the movement you're doing, you'll be far less resistant to doing it. And increasing your movement throughout the day is the best way that you can move your body. Increasing your movement throughout the day is far more impactful on your overall health and weight loss than these concentrated moments of intensity. So really start to think about how you can actually enjoy these healthy habits more. The more pleasure you can find from them or weave into them, the more successful your brain is going to be at seeking them. So when we look at how our brain functions, it becomes way more clear on how we can harness that power to create these healthy habits in a much more sustainable, pleasurable, and easy way. Join me next week where we are going to really tackle one of the biggest self-sabotaging thoughts that I see, and that is, I deserve it. You have a beautiful rest of your day. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to worry about missing an episode, you can follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could share the podcast with others who you think might benefit from it and leave a rating and review to let me know what you think. It doesn't have to be a 5-star rating, although I sure hope that you love the show. I want your honest feedback so I can create an awesome podcast that provides tons of value. Visit www.thrivefromtheinside.com/podcast launch for step-by-step instructions on how to follow, rate, and review. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Mindset and Metabolism Mastery. If you want to learn more about balancing your hormones, repairing your metabolism, and losing weight with empowerment and ease, visit www.thrivefromtheinside.com. I'll see you next time.